Hello and welcome to Crowe Park. Another weekend of football is behind us and we've had a big shock with Cork exiting the championship at the hands of Kildare. Here to talk about that and all football matters is Dermot Crowe of the Sunday Independent and Ray Boyne, performance analyst with Dublin. Very welcome, lads. Dermot, Cork were very flat. Do you think that it was because of the 7-day turnaround?
Well, it certainly looked like that, Marie. You know, they're very close to beating Kerry the first day and should have beaten them really. And apart from that, losing the game, that extra match kind of shortened the gap to the game against Kildare. And I mean, Kildare looked full of running. It was like they smelt blood, and they just kept going. Cork weren't able to stay with them, you know. And
Right, that fast attacking game that they played. Do you think that Cork should have been ready for them?
We're probably doing a disservice a little bit to Kildare, because Kildare did bring their A game on Saturday night, and I thought it was full of energy and it was full of work. And as you mentioned, Mary, the way in which they moved the ball very, very quick. And if you take, you know, the recovery session that would have taken place for Cork after two really big games against Kerry, and then to try turn it around in training and get back up and play against that, probably I wouldn't be overly harsh on them by way of saying that they didn't react to the game. I thought they had lots of goal scoring opportunities, chances. They hit the crossbar, and they got the ball into the danger zone. I think that Colm O'Neill was marked very, very well, and you know, technically you could see the tiredness in them, because I counted about 27 unforced errors where they turned the ball over either by missed kick passes and being stripped of the ball. So I think that they were the indicators that told me that Cork were just flatter than Kildare were.
The big performances that I guess we were talking about after the Kerry-Cork game were the Cork players, you know, whereas this time it was the Kildare players, and one of those was Paul Cribben. And Billy Maher shouted for Paul Cribben. He said he works like a horse every match. How vital was Paul Cribben's performance, Ray? Yeah,
I think he stood up. He was a leader. He got on the ball. A lot of ball went through him. He created an awful lot of what was good about Kildare on the night. But I think the big thing about Paul Cribben on Saturday night was his work rate when Kildare didn't have the ball. He was getting lots of contact on the opposition players. He was putting himself in the way, and he did stand out. In fairness, I thought it was a marquee performance. He was brilliant on the night.
Brian Cuthbert, where now for him?
I actually don't see a future, really, to be frank, for Brian beyond this. I think he's probably taken them as far as he can take them, and you know, he's come in for a lot of criticism over the last few years. Their form has been kind of fitful in that, and I think you know, he was unlucky, I suppose, with the Kerry, the first game against Kerry. They should have won that match, and we might be talking differently now. But I still think there were certain things wrong with Cork that were going to sort of re-emerge at some stage, and I really don't think there's another year there for him. I think that particular project is finished now, and I think they need to look at a new direction.
Ray, the other game, of course, was one that you had a lot of interest in, Fermanagh Westmeath. There was kind of going into the game, it was even enough. People weren't sure who was going to win, some, you know, nearly 50-50 in the predictions. Where do you think that game was won for Fermanagh?
Well, I think, you know, and I hate using that old cliche about a game of two halves, but it really was a very, very nervous, very tentative first half. I think both teams realised what was at stake, and I think it got to them. But both of them had 15 scoring opportunities in the first half, 33% conversion rates. Not going to win anything for you. You know, it was really, really tough. If you look at Fermanagh on their own kickouts, they had like a 40% return on their own kickouts, so primary possession wasn't being won by them. And if the one thing that changed was they were using the long ball directly into the full forward line, and the sweeper was mopping it up all the time. That change that was made at half time, switching Corrigan into that sort of key position in the forward line, and their conversion rate went up to 70%, which is for the second half alone, which is absolutely incredible. They started nervously, kicked a few wides, but in fairness to them, they started to get their shots going and getting the ball over the bar. And they also switched around on their kickouts. They began to win more of their kickouts, and they just looked like they'd settled down at that stage and pushed on.
To move on now to next week and Dublin, how do you think Dublin are going to cope with Fermanagh? I mean, they're used to playing that defensive system. They're not just, doing it because they're playing Dublin.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point, and I think when you consider maybe Westmeath experimented and brought that system late in the championship, Fermanagh are playing this for quite some time. So I think it's a massive challenge for Dublin next week.
Do you think they're going to put it up to Dublin in any way, shape or form, Dermot?
I suppose you're hoping in these situations that Dublin might be a little lax or whatever, might maybe taking it quite as seriously. It's very professional set up now, and teams always are on the guard, but there's always that sort of instinct, I suppose, somewhere embedded in the person that it's still Fermanagh at the end of the day, and there's all those traditional sort of prejudices that apply to it, and that's a natural thing. But just something about Dublin this year that they seem to have the bit between their teeth. I think that that defeat last year to Donegal, I think is driving them on, and I don't think they allow themselves to get into that state.
Ray, do you think that Kildare Kerry is a mismatch, or do you think there'll be any hope for Kildare?
Good question. I think that Kildare will come and they'll try really, really hard. Kerry are a superb outfit. They've got quality everywhere. I think, again, a little bit like Barcelona in soccer, people don't credit the amount of work they do when they haven't got the ball. And then they have the inside forward line that will absolutely destroy defences. I think it's a huge ask for Kildare now to get over this hurdle.
So if you'd like to be in Crowe Park next weekend to see any of these big games, go on to the Eircom GAA website and play our weekly quiz. As we saw last week, Brendan Devaney failed to get all his questions right and he had to do the cinnamon challenge, and here he is giving it a go. And remember, if you would like to have a go at predicting next weekend's games, go on to the Eircom GAA website to be in with the chance of winning some great prizes. So that's it. My thanks to Dermot and to Ray. We have 4 great games coming up next weekend, and we'll be back again on Monday to discuss them and look ahead to the 2 remaining All-Ireland quarter-finals. Many thanks for joining us.